What is going on, everybody? Let me get some music back in. Here we go. Lowered it a little bit so I'm a little louder. What's going on, everybody? I'm already seeing the polls. I'm seeing the votes. I am seeing it. I'm very, very surprised. I'm very, very surprised with the results for this poll right now. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in for Dungeoneers Pack Live. It is a weekly live stream that I do on this channel, going over the latest news in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and talking about topics that players want to talk about. And this week, we're going to be talking about dragons. Fizzbands is on the horizon. Everything has been leaked online already to fellow content creators. My buddies, Fry Minis, has some stuff out. Definitely go check him out. And yeah, a lot of other content creators got a hold of the book really early, and everything is pretty much out now. The cat's out of the bag, but the book's not in our hands. It'll be out in another 2 weeks because it got pushed back another week. So we have to wait just a little bit longer for some good old dragon goodness so we can use it in our games officially. But yeah, there's some shakeups with necessarily not necessarily shakeups, but some expectations that might not have been met with some of these dragon options. So, but before we jump into today's topic, let's get into some news. When I see Aaron in here. Thank you again, Philip D, for stopping by. You can always catch the VOD. Thank you for always coming in and supporting the channel, man. Really, really means a lot. SWAT Cat, you guys need to keep up with SWAT Cat, man. He's just commenting on everything. He's everywhere. Thank you again, bud. Thank you for doing the work and commenting and getting that interaction on the videos for us. It really, really means a lot. Going on, Thunderwolf, thank you for dropping in. So yeah, last week we talked about a book that was supposed to be announced, right? So it was under the assumption that it was going to be the Spelljammer book, right? We had the UA come out, and it was all nothing but Spelljammer races. So we had the Astral Elf, the Autonome, the Thri-kreen, all these races, especially the Gift, they're all associated with Spelljammer. So we're like, okay, well, Tuesday they have to announce a Spelljammer book, right? No, there's no way they can't announce a Spelljammer book. Well, folks, we got bamboozled coming out of left field, out of nowhere. Critical Role got a campaign book. So this is interesting. I'm hoping this is a hint of things to come for support of official 5th edition settings. While Critical Role owns Exandria, that is Matt Mercer's setting for the show, and pretty much most of the shows that they're doing that are not pretty much 5th edition based. Yeah, this is his baby, and Wizards is continuing to help support in some official capacity. So we've already had Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, and then and then the only other Critical Role book that was out was published by Green Ronin. So, and then Darrington Press, which is Critical Role's pretty much publishing arm, they're gonna reprint an expanded edition of the original Green Ronin book with some updates and some fixes and stuff. So it's gonna be interesting to see what's really working out for that. So when it comes to this book, out of left field, we're getting a campaign book at the beginning of the year. Normally around summertime, early fall is when we see another announcement for an official Forgotten Realms campaign book. And like this year, we had 3 books, so it wasn't just, normally it's just like 1 or 2 books towards the end there. We got 3 books, so we're supposed to get them back to back. But it started off with Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and then Fizzbands, and then eventually it's going to be Strixhaven. But we're getting an official campaign book at the beginning of the year with possibly another. I have a feeling next year, 2022, is going to be like a really heavy product year for D&D. I would not be surprised if after this book, we're going to see another book. So what exactly is this Critical Role campaign book? It is Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep. So it is an adventure that's going to take you from levels 3 to 12. So it's going to piggyback. The expectation is it's supposed to piggyback off of the Wildmount books, because there's like 4 adventures in there that take you from levels 1 to 3. And then you can, from there, you can jump into this and then do a big Critical Role-esque campaign setting in Exandria. It's supposed to take you on the big highlights of some of the more recent campaign, which is campaign 2. So they're going to start off in the Waste of Jorhas, and then eventually they're going to go into the new continent of Marquette, which will be featured in campaign 3, which should be starting up, I think, this week. And then the big old title, the Netherdeep, which is supposed to be like a combination of, they're saying, like the Far Realms and like the Deep Ocean. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. Going into, I believe it might, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm semi familiar with season 2, but it'll get into some of the end game part of season 2, where they're in this Far Realm-esque world called the Netherdeep. I probably could be wrong. I don't want to give too much spoilers either, but yeah, they go fight some Sephiroth kind of like Final Fantasy VII final boss stuff in that final fight. It was pretty sweet. In terms of what players can expect absolutely nothing. This is a 100% campaign book. This is all going to be DM driven. So the only thing players may get their hands on is some magic items. Other than that, this is a campaign book specifically for the DMs, which I'm very surprised, because every book they've released so far has had something to give players. So seeing them kind of step back a little bit and just, this is a DM centered book, well, I'm perfectly fine with this. Yeah, we're nothing for players. No updates for subclasses, no additional subclasses, no expansion on the Heroic Chronicle, which was actually a pretty sweet thing for the Wildmount book, where it helped players get involved into the setting, especially if they're not familiar with the Critical Role at all. Most people, I want to say, are, but some people just don't watch the show, so a bit of that. Yeah, Drunken Yoda said, yeah, the Blood Hunter Ranger subclass, they could have done something. I know I've seen in other talks in a couple other Discords I'm in, people asking, well, maybe they could squeeze the Blood Hunter. Normally, Wizards is pretty good about when they want to promote something you get on this title. Like if you're gonna put this on Amazon stuff, they tell you what's gonna be in there to entice players. There's nothing in this book, out of all these little bullet points, that says, man, I need to buy. I, as a, not just as a content creator, but as a fan of just 5th edition, as one that's mainly a player at the table, there's nothing in here that says I need to buy a book. So I don't know if there is going to be a Blood Hunter Ranger subclass, but also the Blood Hunter, which is an unofficial class for 5th edition, designed by Matt Mercer, inspired by Vin Diesel's Witch Hunter movie, and also inspired by The Witcher. It's like a combination of those things. It is unofficially supported, but it is not an official subclass, or a class, excuse me. And since it's on the DM's Guild for you to buy, there's no way it can actually make it into print. It's in a weird limbo. So yeah, so it's unfortunately, those expecting the Blood Hunter to make it into a print book, it's not going to do that. So, and also the flavor for that is very specific, and normally when I've seen classes make it into the join the roster, so we just had the Artificer, it's normally a class that can expand on a character fantasy that's not supported in the game, and it's very broad to include a bunch of different flavors. That's why the Artificer joined the ranks, in that it fits the or science engineering side of magic, where you're a science bro that uses magic to build stuff. That's not really supported flavor wise outside of like a lot of homebrew. And then the only other one that'll probably make the cut when we actually see it, will be the Scion. So, because that supports a whole bunch of science fantasy blending with psionics, and it has a deep history with the franchise. So yeah, this is the biggest bit of news. It's gonna be $50. It'll be out March 15th of 2022. What's going on, Rich? Thank you for going in. I see you, Seth. Yeah, I have, in terms of Critical Role, I've barely kept up. Season 2, I kind of fell off really hard. Season 1, I was hooked. So I'm hoping I don't know, the characters just didn't resonate with me too much for season 2 compared to others. I'm hoping the characters are a little bit different for season 3 or campaign 3, excuse me. Campaign 3 would probably be a perfect jumping on point for those that want to try to dip their toes into Critical Role, but it is a big old time investment, so results may vary. All right, but yeah, that's it. There's no big news. There's no Spelljammer yet. So for those hoping, which gives me a little bit of rest assurance because Spelljammer races were a little rough. Last stream I went over them, and while there were some really good ideas, for me there were some flavor missteps that the mechanics themselves didn't correlate with, and then there was also some of the mechanics were just too good and too broken that didn't actually allow for expanding the flavor of a race. So I'm hoping that they're gonna give enough time to develop these races and then put them into a Spelljammer book. Because at this point we are getting a Spelljammer. Rich said regarding Critical Role season campaign 1, was too disjointed and I bounced off a couple of times, but CR2 campaign was a great starting point for me. Yeah, starting off any of these any of the campaigns when they get going, and if you can just get hooked from the beginning, it really helps out. Campaign 1 started off like at the middle of their campaign because they took the home game and started putting it on camera when it was on Geek and Sundry. So it was going to be very hard for people to kind of jump into that one immediately. But it eventually gained its following. I think, being that it was kind of like their first game, I think there was a bit of there was a sense that obviously some of the threads didn't connect as seamlessly. It was kind of them jumping around being big Dan heroes. That's kind of the style of game they were doing. And then campaign 2 was definitely one of those campaigns where they were flawed. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of buff the gift. I think the gifts ratios are actually really strong, but they need to needing to nerf them so there's more design space for it, so they have a better power budget, so they can actually do stuff people feel about the gifts. And then plasmids probably do need to get a big old rework. So do Thryking. They're the extra hands, while it's really cool, I think they need to figure some stuff out to make sure that if we want to get extra hands. Good. All right. Okay. Stefan correcting me for the Blood Hunter stuff. Okay, so here's the technicality. So technically, the exclusivity of the DM's Guild doesn't stop it from appearing in a Wizard's book, but it does stop it from going in any third-party CR book. So that means Wizards does not want to officially support it in a printed book. If they're not going to put it in a Wizards stamped book because it's on the DM's Guild, but that means they won't see it. They won't see any official support in a CR book that's done by Darrington Press, which is going to be interesting. So that it's stuck in limbo. I know it has a big fan base. I myself, I will admittedly say I'm not a fan of the Blood Hunter. It's not my cup of tea. I think the flavor could fit into a bunch of other classes. So yeah, and let's see. SWAT Cat suggests High Rollers. And he's been getting hooked on the Curse of Strahd campaign that they did run. And yeah, Seth Taylor brings up a point. Critical Role jumped from Pathfinder to 5th edition when they made it on to Geek and Sundry, where they started streaming it. So there is a you could definitely tell there's a change in them getting used to the system. Other than that is everything. That is the news. So new book on the way, new campaign book. If you're a fan of Critical Role, I'm pretty sure you're super excited for this book. For me, you can expect no coverage of this book on the channel, just because I have player options, so I'm just not really going to worry about it. But if you are looking for a book and need to kind of spot, you're needing a really solid book, and maybe you are going to dip your toes into Exandria, the Critical Role world, definitely pick up Wildmount. They reprinted the majority, a bunch of races in there, so you have a bunch of races. Say you didn't pick up Volos or any of those. Wildmount book I would actually suggest for a lot of new players to pick up, just because it reprints so much that are in other books that you may not have access to. A lot of race options. It's a really solid book, and the plus you get the 3 time and space subclasses: the Echo Knight, the Graviturgy, and Chronology Wizard. So, or Chronology Wizard, excuse me. So yeah, so those are definitely something to check out. All right, let's see. Now we're gonna go into question of the week. Here we go. So I asked you guys, how do you use dragons in your games? And this one was very broad because I just want to know like what in what capacity, since Fizzbands is on the horizon. It will be officially released in 2 weeks. How do you guys actually use dragons in your games? So Thunderbolf said, I'm definitely starting an epic dragon campaign after Fizzband. It will have Tiamat, Bahamut, and Sarador. Or Sardior. I keep messing up the Ruby Dragon's name. That'll be fun. I'm definitely on the dragon hype train right now with Fizzbands. The Gem Dragons and the whole all Bahamut and Tiamat all possibly being like the same original dragon. Sort of lore is pretty sweet, and they kind of all got broken and splintered. So definitely in my head. Classes and constructs. Definitely go check out his channel. He does, if you're a fan of Magic the Gathering and you DM and you're wanting to know how to take stuff from the card game and put it into your Magic game, or your D&D games, classes and constructs, that he's right up your alley. Definitely go check him out, support him, give him the subs and the likes, and watch his videos. He's doing some really fun stuff, taking Magic and putting it into D&D. So if you're in that cross section, that Venn diagram, that's okay with mixing your chocolate with your peanut butter, definitely go check out Classes and Constructs. Very good stuff. Right now, I believe he's finishing up or wrapping up Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and taking some of the Magic worlds that are similar to Wild Beyond the Witchlight and sprinkling them into the campaign. And I believe he may be moving into Fizzband soon. Okay, Jalen Smith said, I use dragons as forces of nature, creatures of influence and information, or as being curious about other beings. So making them more like outsiders that sort of just watch. So to be sweet. Vampire Knight, mounts, monsters, and in rare cases PCs. Most the young dragons are PCs. That's pretty cool. I know I've heard stories back in the day where they allowed players to be dragons. And then SWAT Cat, stopping murder hobos in their tracks. Well, murder hobos just want to kill, man. That's hurtful. No. Yeah. Dragons are very deadly. I remember one of my first times I DM'd, I threw a dragon at a level 1 party. So they didn't have the breath weapon. I neutered it, but yeah, it was very scary, and it was very fun, and he ended up overcoming it. All right, I'm gonna check out this. We're gonna check out really quick this poll that we got going on right here. So I asked right before the stream started, what class should have received dragon themed subclasses? So for sure we had the Ranger, the Drakewarden Ranger. Quick little plug, if you haven't checked out the Drakewarden Ranger video, definitely go check it out. I posted it up yesterday. I also want to say thank you to everybody, because that was the best performing video I've had on the channel on a first day. So thank you again. Normally I average between 100 to 150 views on a single day for the first, and which may not seem like a lot, but for me that's normally how I average, and it may not seem like a lot to other channels, but it does for me. It's like I'm happy when they hit just at least 100 views by the end of the day. But Drakewarden surprised me, and it hit 200 views, exceeding my average. So again, thank you guys for watching and supporting. It definitely hit the browse section, so that means a lot of the people that watch were subs. So thank you guys for watching that video. And again, if you haven't checked it out, definitely go check it out. I go over the changes of the subclass and also how to reflavor. Give you one very familiar reflavor and how to fit the class as usual in all the official 5th edition settings. So if you definitely go check it out, it was a very fun video. Next week you'll see the Dragonborn Races, and then the following week when Fizzbands is out, I'll be talking about my sad boy, the monk, who got murdered. Anyway, so yeah, outside of those classes, subclass options, everybody wanted more, and Wizards just decided not to give us more. So after this poll, we had who else should have received a dragon themed subclass. Winning the poll, the Barbarian, with 50% of your guys' votes out of 14 votes. Then the Paladin coming in second, and the Warlock coming in third. No love for the Cleric. Nobody wants to see a Dragon domain Cleric, which is sad. Sad. In the poll there. But yeah. So yeah. And again, yeah, thank you, SWAT Cat. I had fun doing that video. Drake Warden is very, very interesting, and despite them getting rid of the what is it? They got rid of the spells list. It's still a very, very solid subclass. Yeah. So let's get into what I don't know what my neighbors are doing right now. They are banging away. Let's get into it. We're gonna be looking at the subclasses now. So actually, a big shout out to Fry Minis again. Yeah, last night he posted a video called Heroes Dragon Heroes. I'm butchering this 100%. Let me see if I can find the Heroes of the Dragon, which goes over a section in Fizzbands that kind of a cop out, where they talk about ways to reflavor classes or subclasses and classes to have dragon themes instead of just giving you dragon subclasses. And admittedly, he was a bit upset and frustrated because in some official capacity, that's my job. No, I'm kidding. But in official capacity, while I like it when they give flavors, he was right on the money about if people want player options to fill the fantasy, while reflavoring is always going to be a viable option to do this, as a company that designs the game, they should just provide the option. And it's really that simple. When codifying the reflavor aspect into a book and making that your official go-to answer for things, it ends up begging the questions like, well, what's the point of having like themed subclasses and theme mechanics when you're just telling people just reflavor X thing to make Y thing, you know? So which I agree with. So yeah, but before that, I had already planned this stream to talk about how to take the flavors or how to take the dragon flavors and put them into different classes. But definitely go check that out. It's a very interesting video from 5 Minutes he posted last night. So yeah, so just for that, so we are still going to be talking about reflavoring everything. So I picked out a bunch of subclasses that immediately screamed to me. For every class that screamed to me, hey, this can put dragon flavor. So we're gonna go starting from Artificer, and we're gonna end on Wizard. So I don't have like pretty graphics for you guys. Go ahead and throw your ideas in the chat. I'll go ahead and read them out. So we're gonna start the first one. We're gonna start with Artificer. So the Artificer class is the Tinkerer, obviously the magic and science engineer that likes to build magic items, but also in some cases take their magic item and magic science and blend it into their own abilities. So the first one that came to mind was the Armor Artificer. The way you can reflavor this is pretty easy. They have a thunder weapon, which is the punch, and then they have I believe a lightning beam for their infiltrator form. The armor itself, the way I would reflavor it is possibly made out of dragon scales itself, and it's able to harness the energy. So when you go into infiltrator mode, maybe you can do, you know how Mystique in the X-Men movies, her skin kind of scales and it flickers into whatever form she's changing into. Maybe that's what your armor can do. So when you flip into the Thunder Punch mode, your tanky mode, the scales flip and then they reveal sapphire scales instead. And then whenever you go into infiltrator mode, they flip again, and then they reveal blue dragon scales, and then that's when you go into your lightning blast. Yeah, so like some sort of symbiotic dragon armor, and maybe you can play up that whole thing where you have like the consciousness of a gem dragon and a sapphire gem dragon and a blue chromatic dragon, sort of in your armor, and they're kind of bickering with you. Or even then, let me pull up really quick. What other? There's a lightning dragon for the metallic, and that is gonna, or a bronze dragon too. So you can have like this combination of like different things. Especially if you want your armors to kind of look a different way. Maybe you can get sapphire this shimmering blue, and then it goes into bronze when you flip it into the blasty version. So some different. And then even then, yeah, Stephen Harris said pet combo. Another thing, like you can reflavor your homunculus into maybe a little dragon mechanical thing, or maybe some sort of like weird Full Metal Alchemist creature that's in the shape of a dragon. Or maybe just ask your DM if they just let you say that the thing is a pseudo dragon, but it's the homunculus stats. A lot of different ways you can do that. But yeah, that's one for the armor artificer. And the artillerist is another one. I think you can really get into dragon flavor. You're pretty much figuring out how to harness a dragon's breath weapon into a gun. That's really the idea. You're somehow your whole goal as an artillerist is to harness a dragon's breath weapon into some sort of device. Eventually, I would say look into creating like a wand that has like that spell, Dragon's Breath. Eventually creating devices that in general for the artificer that are going to be flavored and inspired by dragons. There's a lot of ways you can reflavor a lot of the base spells, because you're going to be doing acid and fire spells. Like the acid, I think it's the acid splash or cantrip. Literally, you can say that you have vials of is it black dragon? Yeah, I think it's a black dragon. So I have my little cheat sheet of like dragon types, or like copper. Yeah, you can have vials of like copper dragons, or I believe it is black, that have acid, and it's like saying that, oh yeah, you've purchased draconic acid, and that's when you do your acid splash. Battlesmith, making a medium-sized Drake pet. Yeah, that wouldn't be another bad reflavor. Some sort of mechanized Drake pet. I think with the Drake Warden, you might get more mileage out of it because you don't have to like reflavor the construct as like an actual living animal. But that still wouldn't be a bad idea for a Battlesmith. I think playing into some of the mechanical, you're making magic items aspect of the Artificer is a better way to lean into. So maybe you're somehow trying to build a draconic dragon as a Battlesmith. You're trying to harness the power of the dragon to help you, and maybe you don't trust the actual natural dragon as much because they do what they do. Dragons are dragons. All right, so those are my two ideas. The next is the Barbarian. So Barbarian has a bunch of fun ways to really take on draconic aspects. First one I think is the easiest one. We're gonna get into Clerics in just a second. Actually, Barbarians, we get Path of the Beast, so that's the easiest one to take on. You can grow a tail with that subclass. You can also grow claws, and you can also have a bite attack. So instead of taking on this more feral, werewolfy, more animalistic form, you could pretty much say you're taking on a draconic form. I would say, if possible, eventually take if there's any spells or something to get you some sort of breath weapon. That's the perfect way to do it. Or yeah, any other feat to give you some sort of breath weapon. That would be another way to like add on top of that, just to kind of give you that sort of thing. Excuse me. The Path of the Beast is like the easy transition. Is like, I want to play a dragon that fights like a dragon, and you just use your rage to manifest your dragon form. The only thing is you're going to be missing flight in a breath weapon. Breath weapon could be taken care of if you're a Dragonborn, obviously. And wings, there's different ways to get flight throughout the game. And I'm if you're going for that flavor, I would not put it past the DM to kind of give you a way to get flight later on. So yeah, Path of the Beast is the easiest to really transition into dragon monster. Path of the Storm Herald, though, is another solid one. The aura, normally Path of the Storm Herald, all about the environment you're in, but the thing is, all those environments are based off an element. So what you can do is reflavor the Storm Aura feature and say that you're not manifesting an environment into your aura. Instead, you're manifesting a draconic soul, or your draconic bloodline. So desert is associated with fire, so that easily could be a red dragon, or I always forget my metallics. I believe it's brass or gold. That could be like the dragon soul that you're manifesting, and that's where desert ends up becoming either gold, bronze, or gold, brass, or red. dragon soul. Then you have C, which is associated with lightning damage. So that can definitely you're manifesting a blue dragon soul or your bloodline or a bronze dragon. And then you have Tundra, which is cold, so that's a silver dragon or a white dragon. So there's two ways to play it. If you're going to be more aligned with Tiamat and a little bit more evil, or be maybe more of an anti-hero, you can go with more of the chromatics. If you're kind of wanting to be a little more altruistic, obviously go with the metallic. But yeah, Path of the Storm Herald, you can easily reflavor that aura and the elements that it gives you as manifesting your draconic bloodline. More in the same vein as the draconic soul sorcerer. Another one I think Barbarian works really well with is Path of the Totem Warrior. So each totem spirit animal that you take on, a characteristic, can be actually a different part. Instead of being different dragons colors, they can be different aspects of a dragon's physical form that you're kind of manifesting in a spiritual way. And then you can say whatever dragon spirit that you're actually summoning to take on the characteristics. Then you can actually play up the flavor as any aligned dragon. But this is actually the idea for this one came from Khan's Tarkir from Magic the Gathering. The whole Tarkir set was each clan, because it's a world ruled by clans that are inspired by dragons. Each clan takes on a characteristic of a dragon. So the scales of a dragon could be the bear totem. The eyes of the dragon could be like the eagle totem. The fangs and the claws can take on the aspects of the wolf totem. And the wings, since that's really about speed, either the tiger or the elk totems are perfect for that this bit of flavor. So yeah, totem is probably like the funnest one, because you can actually just, while scales of the bear totem is like really, really strong stuff, like the wolf, where they give advantage to people, your teammates, you can definitely play a different flavored barbarian with Path of the Totem and taking on the draconic flavor. Next is the bard. For me, I didn't find there's too many options for the bard. Lore bard would be fine if you're trying to like steal draconic secrets and you're more into draconic lore. And then just trying to like take draconic flavored spells to kind of manifest your connection to a dragon. And maybe you learned how music and a certain draconic language, and that's connected to two songs and music that connects you to a dragon. But the one I thought does really, really well, and it plays up the more charismatic aspects of dragons, would be the College of Glamour. So College of Glamour can kind of play into the charming and the persuasiveness of a dragon, maybe even some of the trickery angles of the dragons. And I think College of Glamours are actually really, really solid for that. And I would definitely align it with the fantasy of the bard, which is that they are able to use words and music, and it somehow has inherent magic, and maybe the words and music are tied to an ancient draconic language that's tied to ancient magic, and that's kind of what you're aligning yourself with. Maybe you're following a scholar or an old musician that either was an ancient dragonborn or a dragon itself, and that's pretty much where your character is going. You can even be a dragonborn if you want with this one. All right, so Wolfsbane wanted cleric flavors, so here we go. The thing is, all the main dragons have like domains, so the cleric's like a super easy transition of like where to actually fit them. Knowledge cleric is actually really good for Sarador, the ruby dragon, that is in charge of all gem dragons. So part of the old domain from previous editions, when I was looking this one up, they are tied to knowledge. So very, very, very thinking and deep thought. I would even say maybe you want to go into arcane. Wouldn't be a bad idea too for Sarador. Life is another strong one for clerics, and obviously this is Bahamut. Easy. There are about the protection of life. So follower Bahamut, you can be a life cleric. Trickery domain is actually good for Tiamat. Obviously, trickery domain can lean into more evil at times, depending on or cruel, depending on how you're gonna play it. And Sarador is also considered another good god for trickery domain. If you look up the old the old 3rd edition lore for gem dragons. And then war again is for Bahamut. So Bahamut is in charge of this domain. SWAT Cat. Alchemist Artificer mixes dragon's blood into brews that grant a certain benefit. You drink a potion, get dragon's breath for a limited time. 20th level ability will allow you to turn into a dragon chug. That is a really, really solid reflavor for the Artificer. Alchemist, it's a way to play into it too. I highly recommend it. Our Alchemist mechanically falls a little short, but it's still fun. Unfortunately, you're just going to need to spend spell points to get the specific potion you want, or spell slots. But I would work with your DM to kind of like buff it a little bit, because yeah, the Alchemist Artificer falls behind just a little bit mechanically, but it's still a fun flavor. Yeah, but in terms of clerics, Knowledge Cleric, again, Sardor, line yourself with some gem dragons. Same thing, you can do Sardor for trickery. For Bahamut, life and war are always the go-to, and then Tiamat, trickery domain. So yeah, clerics are pretty straightforward, because they govern very specific domains. I would even say maybe Tiamat can get into order, the order domain, or peace domain cleric, if you want to kind of expand into that a little bit more. That might be another way to include one of the newer domains. Druids. Okay, so if you guys watched what's it called? If you guys had watched, Todd Kendrick interviewed Jeremy Crawford, where he talked about why they didn't include a bunch of other dragon subclasses, dragon inspired subclasses. One of the ones that they apparently were working on was a druid, a circle of the dragon or something subclass, and they ended up not doing it because they felt it stepped on the toes of the sorcerer, because the sorcerer is supposed to take on draconic aspects. We have moved on to the druid, Rich. We're talking about druid flavoring, of how to take dragon aspects and which subclasses work to reflavor it. So looking at the druid, obviously we'll get the big one out of the way. Circle the moon. If just work with your DM for this one, any animal form you take on, just say it's a dragon. You take on the stats of a bear, but it's just a dragon that's not flying, or it's a drake, or it's something, another form of a dragon. And by the time you get to the high level areas, you can possibly work with your DM to take on certain features that make you into a dragon. And when you go into the animal forms, like if you're going to go into a small flying bear, or like not a flying bear, excuse me, like a bird or something, maybe you're just a small little whelp, dragon whelp, or a small little drake. Yeah, Komodo dragon, lizard druid. Pretty much a lot of this flavor for the Circle of the Moon, it reminds me of Warcraft, the Zandalari trolls. Their animal forms are all dinosaurs. Pretty much just the same basic idea. All your animal forms are actually just variations of a dragon. So Fizzband would come in handy for this, and you just take on different you just look at the manual or that book and be like, okay, where's the little dragon? I want to fly like a little bird. Boom, that's the form I take on instead. But you'll just keep the stats of the bird to keep it within power level. The other one, I think, if you're gonna play a druid, obviously Circle the Land. Each land that you manifest your powers from and draw your spell list from, instead retains those to represent dragons. So obviously there's a bunch of different lands that take on different aspects, all the way from the Underdark to pretty much tundra, sea, desert, etc. All those can simply just be reflavored as different dragon aspects you're taking, that you're following and you're taking on. And I would even, since it's going to be very, very specific on kind of like what dragon you're going to be tailoring, or you're drawing your power from, or you've been taught, and I would say maybe you're from a druidic circle that reveres a dragon. Maybe the dragon's long gone, but their magic is there and their teachings have been there, and the dragon has taken on a vow of to protect and harness the land itself and protect the people there. So it's going to be a little bit more altruistic, trying to keep everything in balance and in nature. So and then you just take on whatever aspects of the land that the dragon is from, and then you say that is powered by the dragon itself. Yeah, so and those are the super easy ones for the druid. I don't think there's really anything else from the druid that can actually give you a little bit more that I would say that can reflavor it, because some of these druid subclasses are very, very spot on about what they're going to do. Some of the subclasses for a lot of these classes are very, very specific, either because they're tied to other settings or they're at a different flavor. I think the only other one you can maybe consider is Circle the Shepherd. And just you're taking on maybe similar to what I suggested for the Barbarian, for Path of the Totem Barbarian. You're summoning different aspects of a dragon as the shepherd that'll give your party buffs. But yeah, that would be another one I would maybe consider. Another good idea. Next is the fighter. So fighter, they still have some options. Obviously, they're not going to be as magical as they could, but the one class that is going to be able to mix magic and martial abilities, Eldritch Knight is a prime example of how to mix or way to mix a Draconic's powers and into your martial fighting styles. Eldritch Knight, obviously, all your spells can just be flavored as dragon spells. They're learned from dragons. You either trained under a dragon, whatever it is. That's pretty much what you're going to go with for Eldritch Knight. You can take eventually, I believe, it takes spells like obviously Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade can easily be reflavored as Draconic magic and be like your bread and butter abilities for the beginning, and eventually getting stuff like a Dragon's Breath if you're not playing a Dragonborn, or taking other abilities that let you kind of like take on Draconic, or taking on spells that let you take on Draconic aspects. So Eldritch Knight is like a prime example. The one I think people are probably going to be a little surprised on is the Roon Knight. Roon Knight is heavily associated with giants, the one of the natural enemies of dragons. But obviously this is going to take some heavy homebrew with your DM to take on different Draconic forms. So let's start off with the main thing. The runes themselves, they necessarily don't need to be actual runes. You can reflavor them as Draconic enchantments, that you're somehow enchanting your weapons and your armor with ancient Draconic magic. The giant features, this is where the homebrew has to come in. Instead of like growing in size and stuff, maybe you're taking on more Draconic characteristics. So I think like maybe at later levels you grow wings so you can fly. Then I would say maybe early on you still get the strength bonus and stuff because you're taking on Draconic traits, but maybe instead of getting like the size growth at the beginning when you activate it, you get a breath weapon or something like that. I would look into those sort of angles. Replace the size the size growth mechanic with more of a different flavorful dragon mechanic, but still keep some of the buffs like the extra damage and maybe the advantage to strength checks and stuff, because you're just taking on Draconic characteristics. And then just as you level, change some of those the size growth features to be like breath weapon and later on flight. I think those things to go a long way of like replacing and giving they're very already powerful Roon Knight Draconic flavors, but also more play that they probably don't even need. They get more options that they don't need, especially flight. The Roon Knight is ridiculous in terms of power level for a fighter. They get a lot of options. Seth Taylor said with the new Echo lore for dragons with the Echo Knight could work with a bit of a stretch. Oh yeah, especially if you're gonna play like a Dragonborn and maybe your Echoes are dragons, your other Draconic forms from a different pretty much a different setting. That'd be actually a really cool way to play like a extra planar adventure with the Echo Knight Dragonborn. And pretty much your echoes are just other variants for your character. So yeah, Echo Knight would be cool with a Dragonborn, leaning super into the Echo lore. Let's go into Monk. So there is actually some other options besides the Way the Ascendant Dragon that will be in Fizzbands. Way the Astral Self. This can be, you can tie this into being a gem dragon. You're learning from how to manifest your sonic astral form. And definitely you can be a monk that follows and reveres a gem dragon. Gem dragons have a connection and abilities with sonic power. So this is another way to do it. Astral Elf or Astral Self. Not Astral Elf. Astral Self. Um, that's easy. You can reflavor that. You've trained under a gem dragon, or a gem dragon has developed a some sort of religion or and a code and a way of life and philosophy that your monk is training and believes in, and allow them to achieve a higher plane or higher thought of existence. Oh, thank you. Yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, you know what? And then tying that to a Dragonborn would actually be pretty sweet. Now, I've been trying to figure out like if I'm gonna play a Dragonborn, especially a metallic Dragonborn, because the new features are sweet. It's probably like my favorite Dragonborn option now, the Dragonborn metallic variant from Fizzbands, and I've been trying to figure out how to play a melee frontliner, and maybe I think with your idea now, I think Echo Knight Metallic Dragonborn's is in the eventually Joshua play folder. Cause yeah, that whole idea where you have variants and you're calling upon your variants to come help you fight is actually pretty sweet. Another thing for the monk, I would suggest Way the Sun Soul. This is a Radiant Gem Dragon, so it's going to be very tied to Gem Dragons. I would say, let's see which one is Radiant. Not too familiar with the Gem Dragons, honestly. So let's see. Gem Dragons, Radiant Damage, a Crystal Dragon is what you're kind of like taking on after, and you've learned to be a Laser Monk. Yeah, and you're just taking on very, very similar idea with the Way of the Astral Self. You're understanding the teachings and the art styles and the martial arts of a Radiant Gem Dragon that is pretty much in charge of this monastery, or it has inspired this monastery, and you're taking on the characteristics so you can laser away your enemies. Wolfsbane, I'm surprised you didn't mention Samurai with the extra face skills playing into some dragons' ability to shapeshift to human-like forms. Part of it, I think, for me, it wasn't that I was trying to avoid the Samurai connection to dragons. It was more so, I think it's kind of a given at times. Like connecting your Samurai warrior and the code of honor and the whole lore behind it, and then how dragons themselves are very associated with Asian culture and part of Asian myth. Samurai is kind of a given that you're gonna be like a dragon samurai. Your samurai armor's all dragoned out and stuff. It's kind of an easy trope to play into. But yeah, the samurai is right up there. Like you said, Wolfsbane, there is a they have a lot of face skills that they can play into. That helps and is attuned to very, very aligned with dragons. So yeah, Samurai is another good one for fighter to consider. Samurai is actually just a very slept on subclass for the fighter. Most people automatically assume too, when you see the Samurai imagery, you want to use a katana or some sort of sword. But a archer samurai, either an elf or half elf with believe that the elf, let's see, it's elven accuracy feat, and then the feature that they get for the mace subclass to give them advantage on attack rolls for a turn or so from the samurai is pretty stupid together. So something to consider if you're wanting to you're looking at a build and want to play like an archer samurai. So the way those two features interact, pretty much you're getting, I want to say you're getting super advantage. So just to consider if you want to play with power. But yeah, monks, again, going back to monks, outside of the Ascendant Way of the Ascendant Dragon, Way of the Astral Self, and Sun Soul connecting you to Gem Dragons, and specifically Sun Soul for Radiant Gem Dragons. Obviously, Way of the Four Elements is another one. That's going to be way similar to the Way of the Ascendant Dragon. They kind of play in the same space of having elemental power. But I still think, despite the changes and the nerfs to the Way of the Ascendant Monk, it's still going to be better and a better play experience and a funner play experience compared to the frustrating Way of the Four Elements Monk. So yeah, and then don't worry. I think in the future, I'm gonna do a little bit more builds coming up after I'm kind of done covering Fizzbands. So expect a bunch of builds to hit the channel for the remainder of the year. I wanted to do some builds inspired by Strixhaven, but I might be able to squeeze in a couple builds. And a Samurai Archer build is one of the builds that I'm having in my mind that's just sitting there. So you may see that pop up too before some of the lower hold stuff. Okay, let's keep going. We're actually almost done. We're about a little over halfway. Paladins. So Paladins, Oath of Conquest and Oath of the Crown. Those are both perfect for Tiamat. They're all about just sort of taking over and consuming whatever environment they are in. Oath of the Conquest or an Oath of the Crown can be really be reflavored, and they tend to be a little bit more not necessarily evil aligned, but not necessarily good either. They're kind of, you can push these both of these subclasses in either good or evil directions. So so that's why it's perfect if you're gonna play more of an anti-hero. I can see somebody like Archon the Cruel take on Oath of Conquest because they're looking to take over things in the name of Tiamat. So that's how you play with Oath of the Conquest. And Oath of the Crown, you pretty much play it very much the same way. You're there to protect your queen. Your five-headed queen, you're there to protect her. But if you want to play a good aligned paladin and want to pretty much be a follower of Bahamut and his teachings, Devotion is probably like your best bet. Be your standard bread and butter Wonder Bread paladin. Oath of Devotion's your go-to. I don't think any of the other ones can really give you any leanings towards something else. I think you can reflavor certain ones for those that are maybe more familiar with certain lore, and know different dragons outside of like the big two, now three. Like Oath of the Ancients would be perfect for maybe a dragon that's more attuned to nature and the old ways that are forgotten. Especially for those that like have homebrew worlds, there's other ways to like take some of these subclasses, especially for Paladin, because the Paladin Oath has a lot of flavor involved within, a lot of roleplay opportunities with it. So Oath of the Ancients is another good one. Let's see, Oath of Vengeance might be one also. Oath of Vengeance, depending on like you want a dragon that's going to help you get revenge. This would be like you're taking on you're helping a dragon that wants to get revenge on another enemy or something, and that you guys share the same enemy. Pretty much, that'd be a way to do Oath of Vengeance. You make an oath, a draconic blood pact with this dragon, and they help you while you help them accomplish the same goal. Oath of the Watchers would be another good one if you're going to be like an extra planar hero that's helping. Maybe you're there to protect the draconic echoes or something. You know, that's protect other people. Maybe there's people hunting draconic echoes, or somebody's like Tiamat's followers. Maybe they're somehow managed to get into an extra planar fight, or they're able to go extra planar and go hop from plane to plane to kind of like steal or destroy Tiamat's echoes, so that there's only one true Tiamat. So that'd be, and then you're Oath of Watcher and you're going around fighting Cult of the Dragon that have managed to planes hop. Ranger. So for the Ranger, there is the only other one I thought outside of Drake Warden, obviously, is a big one. I know people are going to say Beastmaster. You can do the same thing. But if you got the Drake Warden there, just play Drake Warden instead of Beastmaster. Fey Wanderer would be okay if you're going to be like inspired by a Fey dragon. But the one I thought would be fun would be Swarmkeeper. And then all your little swarm is actually baby Fey dragons or pseudo dragons or something like that. They're just these little whelps with fairy wings that come in and help you fight. So that'd be another option. I'd say for the Ranger, you can do that. Horizon Walker, I think you can do the same thing like I suggested with Oath of the Watchers, where you're an extra planar warrior that's there to stop Cult of the Dragon, who are trying to get rid of draconic echoes of Tiamat, so that she can be the one true her final form. So yeah, anything that's extra planar warrior like class or character fantasy, that's like the good way to go. That is Ranger. Rogue. Okay, so Rogue, normally people wouldn't associate rogue with dragons, but Arcane Trickster, you can be a Cult of the Dragon, follower of Tiamat, and the magic you're learning is it's very much you can align it with the Cleric and the Trickstery domain. For Tiamat, that'd be another way to do it, and be a little bit more of a malevolent. This would be a little bit more evil. But then you can also, since trickery is also associated with gem dragons, you can do Arcane Trickster with that too. A Soul Knife gem dragon inspired rogue is also another good option, even though it's Soul Knife is supposed to be psionic, but you're manifesting your psionic powers and your radiant energy to be a Soul Knife rogue. Be another good one, and that's just taking those sort of fantasies and applying it to those classes that tend to not be. Everybody thinks Soul Knife is mainly like a pretty much Sonic warrior, just goes stabs people like Psylocke with their Sonic knives. An Arcane Trickster, normally it's what people say they want it to be. It's like this little trickster spellcaster rogue that plays pranks on people, but you can definitely sprinkle in some draconic flavor for those. Pretty much just figure out in the rogue, it's where does your magic come from? That's really the main source, or where does your powers come from for the rogue? Because your other skill sets are really going to be based on your character, probably learning them for surviving. Sorcerer. So there is some more play with the Sorcerer. Let's get the big one out of the way. Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer is the one. Obviously, you want to play a Sorcerer that has Draconic power. Draconic Bloodline. Other ones to consider: Aberrant Mind Sorcerer. You're doing more Sonic powers, so definitely Gem Dragons is where you get it. You're gonna need to lean away from the aberrant angle of the subclass, and you're just gonna really take on the idea that you're manifesting your Sonic powers tied to a Gem Dragonborn lineage. So yeah, and then I believe I want to say. Also, Emerald Dragons are tied to Sonic power itself, more specifically. So, definitely consider that. And at the same case, I forgot to mention since with the Aberrant Mind, the fighter, the Cyanite fighter, that is employed by or trained, or maybe is an Emerald Dragonborn, it would be another one to consider too. So, for the fighter. So yeah. So for the Sorcerer Aberrant Mind, you're a Emerald Dragonborn, or you've trained or have a bloodline associated with a Emerald Dragonborn would perfectly play into the Aberrant Mind. Divine Soul is another solid one. Obviously, you can be literally Bahamut's chosen. Your bloodline is directly associated with Bahamut, or because it's kind of radiant, a Crystal Dragon. You can really play up that angle because you're going to get a lot of more like radiant spells and healing spells. But yeah, you yourself can be a direct bloodline to Bahamut. That's probably a way I would play Divine Soul Sorcerer. Storm Sorcery. Either your bloodline's tied to a blue dragon or a bronze dragon. In any of the settings. So Storm Sorcery would be another good one to do, getting all your lightning powered spells on. And that'd be a way to use those. But really, with the Sorcerer, it's just taking the idea of which sort of dragon is influencing your bloodline or your soul, and then just kind of redirecting the flavor of it. Because Aberrant Mind is very associated with Sonics and aberrant or realm monsters, but you can literally drop all the Aberrant Mind or the aberrant far realm monster spells that you get and replace them with stuff that's going to be more aligned to dragons. There's a couple features that let you actually kind of switch spells out to kind of pick other spells with the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer that helps you out with that. And Divine Soul, you run amok on the Cleric spell list. So yeah, another really, really solid one. Storm Sorcery is probably going to be Storm Sorcerer is going to be a little bit harder because you really got to stick to lightning, water, and thunder damage based stuff. So that's the only one you got to kind of like really figure out and maybe expand a little bit more on. Okay, the big one. I'll save Warlock for last. We're gonna go with Wizard because it's like the most blandest. Wizard, there's nothing in the Wizard's features or classes, subclasses, excuse me, that really say, yeah, this is only dragon. Any of the classes, or excuse me, any of the subclasses is perfectly fine for a wizard. Really, the wizard's flavor is, hey, I have this spell book, I'm sitting there studying and learning magic. And all you have to do with the wizard is figure out, where are you learning this magic from? Where are you learning your spells from? Well, all these books maybe can be written by an ancient, it's written in ancient draconic script, and that your maybe it was found in a dragon's hoard, something or so other. Just figure out who's the author and who where are they learning their magic from. This is gonna be good in settings that magic derives strictly from dragons, like Eberron. Magic derives from the dragons, so that can be one thing. Maybe your character in Eberron as a wizard has found ancient draconic script and somehow has found this book or found a scroll, something that is teaching them magic. Well, okay. Wolfsbane asks, "Would a good dip for a draconic samurai be either a sorcerer or a warlock?" If you're wanting, let's see. I think flavor-wise, sorcerer. It's pretty easy because you can just take the draconic sorcerer and boom, you have dragon flavor. You don't get to do much sorcerer stuff just because you need. Sorcerer doesn't get to do the sorcery stuff, I think, until like level 3, which is sad. So, but like if you just immediately want like the armor, the natural armor that you get for the draconic lineage, and I believe you get. Let's see. I think it's the natural armor, and then you also get. Let me see this feature: draconic resilience, and then yeah, you don't even get elemental affinity. I think dragon, yeah, sorcerer, draconic bloodline is probably the most flavorful one to go. You might not get too much, but if you're gonna play like a dex based samurai, because your AC is gonna be 13 plus dex, your dex modifier if you take at least one level into sorcerer, or draconic sorcerer, and then you get to get proficiency bonus, doubles. You get expertise when you're using charisma checks against dragons, and then you learn draconic. That's at least level 1 dip. Other than that, you don't get like extra stuff until like 6th level. Obviously, warlock's gonna give you a bunch of play, with different stuff. Warlock, you can reflavor Devil Sight into draconic sight. Like you can just easy reflavor, so actual more power up front. Warlock, there's a reason why warlock's probably one of the best classes to take at least a couple level dip into. Yeah, before I get into warlock and to explain kind of why, or how much you can actually reflavor the warlock to be a dragon. Wizards, wrapping up on wizards. None of the classes are very specific to. None of the classes are very specific into subclasses are specific to what dragons. They don't align that way. Pretty much, it's where you take your power. And coming in with the 50 bombs, Sanctimus 1 ass. Thank you again. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for dropping the 50, man. Crazy. Hey, Pack, would you go into a little detail about how the new Drake Warden will work in combat in both the low and mid tiers of combat in both melee and range? Okay. We'll go into that before I go into Warlock. And the Drake Warden, I think, has a lot more play and options doing melee and range. Mainly because at the range, rangers are always going to excel. So sit back, be a dex build, and longbow, and then have your pet go in there. And you're just going to blast away, obviously using bonus action to take on and do a bunch of features. I think at their... I need to just pull up Drake Warden really quick for some of the features on the... I don't think having your little mini pet is going to matter too much, the smaller pet size, because I don't think the size actually necessarily dictates their HP and stuff when they're small. I don't think there's a big jump. Nope. Yeah, there isn't. So Up front, there isn't going to be too much in the early game. I think in terms of range, it's the safest option to protect your character. The only thing is, it's how are you going to utilize the bite attack that they get, and also utilize the Drake companions infused strikes. So if you're going to be sitting at range, obviously your pet's going to be out in the front, and maybe a little bit of a tank. Even it looks a little weird when you have the little baby dragon do that, right? But then you're going to be using infused strikes, which is going to be able to add extra damage to attacks. So normally for any ranger class, you'll have that rider where you're using like Gloomstalker, I believe does additional damage just on the first attack. But then you have stuff like Fey Wanderer, who and then also Swarmkeeper, they have the extra damage for their attack. But with the limited range on infused strikes, it's going to be very dependent on your party members and where they're positioning. So your Drake is going to be next to one of your frontliners, and you're just going to need to remember to use your reaction to add damage to their attacks. It doesn't really change it up, but it's going to just be more, instead of you doing that damage, they're doing the damage, which isn't going to be a bad idea, especially say you get somebody a little bit heavier on the crit fishing, or it has ways to either attack out of turn, or ways to just increase their crit range, and maybe or just a little bit more luckier. Maybe they have advantage or something. Infused strikes wouldn't be a bad idea to constantly give them if you're going to play at range. Obviously, you're going to be a little bit safer, but it does put a bigger focus on your pet. And that's if you're playing at range. That's really the only difference. But melee, I think Drake Warden is actually a viable melee option. Not because you're getting additional, really any additional defenses. I think later. Let me see. I have to remember. I don't remember the final version exactly, but obviously, I think the infused strikes gives you more play to be in melee. Just because instead of you giving it to another player, you can be up front, but you can play it as a dual wielding. Actually, the only part that I'm thinking about it, because I'm thinking about builds, you need your bonus action to command your Drake, excuse me. So it would have to be a strength build. Is probably another way to go with this for a melee range, unless you want to play a single want to stay all dex and just use an offhand to attack, or just a dex weapon. But if you're trying to maximize damage, a strength build, melee ranger, Drake Warden Ranger with your pet would be another really, really solid option. And the strength builds don't get the amount of like attention for rangers at times, because obviously dex is the best stat in the game, and if you're everything about your class is going to be based off of dex, strength isn't always going to be the best way to go. But I would not sleep on it, just because how infused strike works. Obviously, you're not really going to be using Hunter's Mark. I would recommend using the alternate feature that adds the D4 and then that scales up higher for this sort of build, because you need your bonus action to have your Drake attack. So, in terms of mid tiers of combat, obviously when you get Bond of Fane and scale, your guy's going to get bigger. I don't really see you're going to be using it to ride your Drake too often. I think the riding ability is going to be more of a thing where you're going to be using out of combat. So in terms of in combat, I don't really see too much of a difference in what you're going to be doing, especially if you're playing at a range attack option. Like you're pretty much going to be doing the same thing. I think it's when you get into the higher tiers of play, when you get closer to being able to ride your Drake, where things are going to open up. Because let me I think that's when your tier, and because you're going to be able to ride your Drake, and they're going to be able to fly, and you're going to be able to cruise around and actually shoot creatures. I think that's where range gets an advantage. But if you're going to be playing in melee, flying up to an enemy and being able to just smash, like hit them too, is probably the best spot, just to make sure you're using your bite attack. Like, for me, I would say this: the final thoughts on the Drake Warden. Really, in terms of like play styles, I think they're more viable for two styles of play. They're one of the better rangers outside of Gloomstalker that have a really good style, really good viability for like a strength build, melee builds, and for range builds. Just because your bonus damage isn't going to be tied to you doing the damage. It's actually tied to your Drake. Your Drake is going to be the one that actually does that damage. So yeah, hopefully that explains my thoughts a little more. Hopefully it wasn't all jumbled. Hopefully that helped out. But yeah, the in terms of like mid and low and mid styles of play, there shouldn't be too much of a change. And that's just the nature of martial classes in general. You kind of like don't really have to worry too much. Even to that extent, I think even you can take more supportive spells, since your main attack and your main actions are going to be mainly just doing bonus action or an action to attack. Yeah, for me, I really like the Drake Warden just because it opens up so many lines of play in terms of what you're going to be capable of doing, because you can do like a spell if you really need a supportive spell and still have your Drake attack, and you're still going to be doing damage. So again, thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for the 50 bomb. Thank you. All right, let's get into this last class. I saved the Warlock for last because the Warlock has so much play. The Warlock has, obviously, they're going to be getting their power from patrons. So what we're really going to be doing is reflavoring the patrons to fit our features. So Seth already said Undead Warlock as a Dracolich patron, only suggestion I got there. And yeah, I have a build exactly on that. The Undead Patron Warlock, there is a build. I did it when it was in the UA playtest. And since there was no changes to the UA final version of that Warlock, yeah, Undead Dracolich patron is perfect for the Undead Warlock. We're getting close to wrapping up, buddy. it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, we're talking about reflavoring Warlock patrons right now. But yeah, if you haven't checked out that build video, that's pretty much what that is. It's taking the Undead Patron or the Undead Warlock and turning it into a Dracolich. But yeah, exactly. Exactly, Seth. That is exactly a perfect one. If you want more Fae, and since their Wild Beyond the Witchlight is here, and then the Fizzbands talks about Fae dragons, Archfey patron, your patron, it could be a Fae dragon, a powerful Fae dragon, that maybe owns their own Demiplay Delight. They're in charge of a Demiplay Delight that you can just kind of work with the DM to kind of make up. And say you're playing in Witchlight, maybe they're having you go into Wither to go kind of help out in that situation. A dragon turtle. Oh, yeah, see. There's a lot of ways you can do a dragon turtle, and then you literally can be a turtle that is a draconic sorcerer. Way the ascendant dragon monk turtle, so you can be a ninja dragon turtle. Thing to consider. Another one you can do, a Fiend Patron Warlock. That is Tiamat, 100%. Tiamat is in Avernus. It is on the first plane of the Nine Hells. She is in Avernus. You can easily make a pact, and Tiamat can be your Fiend Patron. Super easy with flavor. It's all fire and brimstone and hell, so Fiend is the perfect way to go. Nothing really too much to add about that. You really want to play an evil or an evil hero, an anti-hero, similar to Archon the Cruel, being Patron Warlock, or your patron's Tiamat. Hell, you can even make your patron Archon also, so yeah, be consider. Yeah, Ninja Dragon Turtle. Yeah, we had in my group when we were playing Tomb of Annihilation. One of our buddies played a Shadow Monk Turtle, and pretty much we used a Ninja Turtle mini for him for the whole time. So yeah. How would you do a Demon Lord? I think a Demon Lord Warlock Fiend is normally like the safest bet. But Hex Blade is probably another easy, super stupid reflavor because Hex Blade is so broad. And depending on the kind of demon you're going, like if you're going with, I think, Orcus, Undead Patron would actually be really viable too. I would consider that one also. All right, another one that is going to be an easier flavor transition is Genie. Instead of having different Genie, each Genie is actually a different dragon. The only thing I think you might struggle with is the reflavoring of the item that lets you kind of go in to like a safe spot. The way I would handle that is you're a Genie Warlock that is taking magic items and you're porting it to your dragon's hoard. So whatever little extra dimensional device or magic semi-plane that they're giving you that you can kind of like give you a bit of a respite and kind of like hide in. Maybe that's like the middle point where the dragon takes items, magic items and stuff for their treasure, and then they have somebody else go into that little spot and then take into their hoard. Yeah, Genie Warlock, easy, just because there's all those the different elements that you're playing with, so that's easily different kinds of dragons. And obviously dragons are powerful enough to later give you a wish. So yeah, that's a super cool different way to play the Genie Warlock. And maybe you're just not into Djinn, but you love the elemental aspect of it. I would work with your DM with that one, and just you're there to collect on the behalf of the dragon, to collect magic or collect treasure for him. I would say that wouldn't be a bad idea. Celestial Patron Warlock, you definitely can do Bahamut. It's pretty much the same, along the same lines of the Divine Soul Sorcerer. Celestial Patron I would easily choose Bahamut. Maybe a Crystal Dragon, but I'm not sure how much of the Crystal Dragon actually heals. I know they're associated with Radiant Damage and the Radiant Damage type, but if you're looking for something that's a little bit more good aligning, since you are going to have that healing feature, Bahamut is the way to go. Fairy Dragon Patron Fey Warlock. Yep, Archfey is perfect for it. Obviously the big old Warlock boogeyman in the room, Hex Blade Warlock. Hex Blade Warlock, the easiest flavor because they're the strongest, but they're the blandest. They are the blandest Warlock in terms of flavor. You get a magic weapon and that gives you power, that either the weapon itself is your patron or the weapon comes from, as like we've seen in Critical Role with Travis Willingham's character, his half orc. That weapon comes from a different another patron. So literally you can have a dragon weapon that a dragon gives you, and you work on their behalf. The only thing I think is going to be a little weird, and it's always been weird with the Hexblade Warlock, is that 6th level feature where after you slay somebody, you take their soul comes up and you have them fight with you. I would probably try to reflavor that 100%. Maybe work with the DM to replace it to get a little bit more dragon inspired feature. But other than that, yeah, like Hexblade Warlock is just super good. Like you can even have, say it is, maybe there was an ancient dragon that was bound and is banished inside a weapon, and that's pretty much what it is. It's a big ass dragon tooth that you're fighting with, that is your blade, that has the soul of the dragon in there, and the whole goal is to free them, because maybe they are good or maybe they're an evil dragon. Yeah, and that's my problem with the Hexblade. I have a video on the Hexblade. I covered it finally. Kind of retreading, going back to older subclasses now. But yeah, my problem with the Hexblade is it's very bland. You do whatever you want with it, and it just works, which is fine. But mechanically, it pushes the game in a direction that might not be healthy, and just because it's so powerful that I think it's gonna mess with the expectations of the player base, because it is a stupidly strong subclass that, with a few fixes, a few like things to fix, might actually make it balanced. Well, yeah, there's just other than that, like yeah, it's gonna skew expectation of design for the game for the general audience, because the Hexblade makes you feel good when you use it. So it's just one of those things. And yeah, and the last one, we've already mentioned it. Undead Patron Warlock is a Dracolich. That's probably the funnest one. I've actually managed to play the Undead Patron Warlock as a Dracolich, with a Dracolich Patron. I did it for a one-shot for Wally DM. I believe the first episode is up on his channel. I joined Dungeon Dad, No Fun Allowed, Blanco, and I'll pull it up and I'll link it for you guys. I'm gonna pull up and link it for you guys. Episode 1's up. He's gonna be posting up. I think it's gonna be like a 4 to 5 part episode. Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. Let me get it. It's only like the little intro of that live play. You actually get to see me be awkward and play live. Yeah, I had to get into groove. I was very, very, very nervous playing with the group. That was like my first big time actually playing with other folks, especially other content creators. Let me. I'm looking for it. Came out. Oh, here we go. Obelisk of. Here it goes. It is the Obelisk of Ambervein. It was the name of the one shot. You guys can check it out right there. There is the link. I had a really good time. I played the Undead Draconic Dracolich Patron. I played a Black Dragonborn. My build for the Warlock was a little different. So since I know the game was going to be a little bit more puzzle based, I didn't go with the tried and true invocations for that build. I went with more stuff that was going to give me a bit more utility. So that's why you possibly will see me use different features. If I might still have the character sheet for this character. I might have the character sheet for this character, and if I do, I will actually, I can share it with everybody. And let's see. And thank you for the sub, Sanctimus. Thank you. Yeah, let me see. I don't use D&D Beyond, but I do have a character sheet somewhere. Let's see, here we go. Yeah. So yeah, it was me, and I want to say, let me give them the shout out to No Fun Allowed, Aviad from Beyond the Screen, Blanco, Caleb, and then Josiah at Dungeon Dad, and then Wally DM'd it for us. It was a super fun adventure. I definitely recommend go checking out all those guys they put. You guys may have heard of Blanco. He does he looks over minis and pretty much goes into shops and finds cheap deals and either how to convert them into miniatures or find cheap miniatures, and tells you where you can actually get them. What's it called? Let's say Avi on the screen. A lot of DM tips and helping you play your games. Dungeon Dad takes old monsters from previous editions and then converts them for 5th edition. So definitely go check his channel out. And then No Fun Allowed, also in the same vein as Aviad, he goes and goes over actually each campaign for the books, and then helps you run each of the official 5th edition campaign books. So definitely go check those channels out. And then of course Wally DM for DMing that one. Definitely go check him out if you want some really fun traps and how to fit them into your game, and he goes over and explains how to do those things. Definitely go check out Wally DM. He is the trap master. The puzzles and stuff he had in that game were really fun. So hopefully the rest of the episodes will get up soon, and you guys actually really see the puzzles that he put in now, because it was really awesome. And the characters in that the characters everybody brought, I brought the most serious one for some reason. I thought if I could have, I probably would have put more of a funner, jokey character, but I brought the serious character, while everybody else, I had some really great characters. Yeah, it's a fun one shot. Hopefully the rest of the episodes will go on. Again, check them out. You may see some of those men on this stream sometime soon. I'm trying to work on some stuff to bring them on. No Fun Allowed was on a couple weeks ago. We were talking about Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So I'm hoping to get the rest of those guys on here to talk D&D. All right, we're gonna wrap up the last couple questions before we end it here. Okay, so Wolfsbane, would a Twilight Cleric work with a Dragon Reflavor? Also, would a good nerf be a 1d4 temp HP and you're refreshing and be regulated to a bonus action instead of automatic upon a turn? I'm assuming that's for the Twilight Cleric. Off the top of my head, I don't even know which feature that is. Twilight Cleric is a little bit hard because it's all about home. The whole thing is about home and respite in that awkward time between night and day. I think if you're really wanting to play Twilight Cleric and try to reflavor a draconic thing to it, I would say the best way to do it, maybe you're gonna play into the idea of I want to say maybe you're gonna want to play into the idea of you're in that lost cross section of the dragons. Maybe you're a follow of Io, which is the original dragon. It was the dragon, and some of the lore, that was the dragon that was split up to become Tiamat and Bahamut, and to some extent maybe that was also Serador. That's kind of how that plays out. So I would, maybe that's why you're a Twilight Cleric. You're actually the follower of Io, and that's your goal, is to reunite all the parts of Io, Bahamut and Tiamat into the one ultimate dragon. And that's why you're a Twilight Cleric, because you're talking about the times in between 2 points. So that'd be probably the closest way I can probably reflavor it. Oh yeah, the Black Dragon Lord I played, his name was Sivarus. He his undead form is he took on aspects of his Dracolich. So like he had like I described it like bones would pop out of his shoulders, like a whole front end of a skull would pop out of the top of his head, draconic skull. So it's in there. I'm trying to look. I will look for it off stream. I have the link of my character sheets, or I can actually provide the character sheet somewhere, and then I will link it. I will probably upload it to here it is. I will find a place to upload it, and I will share it on the community page for you guys. I'll share it, and if I can't share it on the community page exactly, I'll put it on the Patreon for free, so you guys can actually see the character sheet for Sivarus, and then I'll just link it onto the community page. That'll probably be the cheapest or the fastest way to do it. Excuse me, so you guys can go download it. Again, thank you guys for all showing up. We're going to wrap it up here. Next week, I don't know what we're going to be doing. The following week, though, Fizzbands will be out, and I can confirm now I will be joined with Prime Minis. Eric will be joining me from the channel, his channel. Definitely go check him out. He is killing it with his Fizzbands coverage. But also we'll be joined by Wally DM, and we will be talking about Fizzbands after it is now its official release. So that'll be in 2 weeks. That will be on the 31st. I believe that is Halloween Sunday afternoon. So we will be talking about that. I will not dress up. Sorry. Next week, I don't know what we're going to be talking about. On the 24th, I'll figure it out. Maybe they'll announce something crazy and we'll talk about that. Or maybe if I can rope some other content creators with stuff, we'll bring them on and talk about D&D. So yeah, again, thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for the 50 bomb, Sanctimus. Really means a lot supporting the channel. Thank you guys for all showing up and watching. As always, easiest way to support the channel is to like, comment, subscribe on every video. Even if it's not just me, if it's any of the content creators I mentioned in this stream today, go ahead and check them out and go and support them. If you want to support the channel directly, obviously the Patreon's there, Dungeoneers Pack, or you can become a member here on the channel for different for similar fees, and you get access to a bunch of different stuff. You can follow me on the socials, are right on the screen. Dungeoneers Pack YT at Facebook, Dungeoneers Pack on Instagram, and DPackYT on Twitter. And if you want to talk more about D&D, want to talk more about reflavoring, you want to talk, or just want to talk and hang out, you can join me. You'll see SWAT Cac there. You'll see my buddy David, Random, Random 2872, and a bunch of other folks in the Discord. The link is in the description. Don't be afraid. Jump in, accept the terms, and I am in there. I'm fairly active. And we just sit there, talk D&D and other fun stuff. So again, thank you guys for showing up. Until next time, you guys have a good one, and I will see you guys next week. Dragonborn subrace variant video. Expect it. If you guys haven't seen Drake Warden, check it out. All right, you guys take care. Peace.